Welcome to another exciting episode of the Business of Digital podcast, featuring your hosts, Matt Siltala and Dave Rohr. All right, so one of my favorite topics ever, as you know, Dave, because I'm always talking about it, is visual content, and that is what we are going to talk about on today's episode of the podcast. And so, welcome, first of all.
Welcome.
We're glad to have you guys. Thanks for joining us this beautiful new year, 2018. Hard to believe that January is almost over, but it's going fast, and we have lots of exciting episodes to record this year. And so I'm excited to one of the first ones. Obviously, we've been going already, but one of the things that I love is talking about visual content. In fact, I was looking at this, Dave, and out of the presentations that I have coming up, 7 of the next 8 in the next couple of months are all going to be about visual content.
What's the other one?
Influencer marketing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. So I don't know the best way. I guess maybe the best way to kind of jump into things are just talking about what we see, or at least what I see, and then you can jump into things that you see with 2018 being upon us. And one of the things that and I'll just jump right into it, Dave, is one of the things that I really am trying to help clients understand and do better myself, even with our own content, is like I remember, let me take a little bit of a history trip. I think one of the first infographics that I ever created, I didn't even know it was an infographic. I didn't really call it anything. It was back in 2008, if you can believe it. It was a history of the electric guitar. And the thing is still shared to this day, 10 years later, which is kind of cool. We didn't do anything right with it back in the day with who we used it for. So it's still being shared just everywhere and really not getting, helping anyone except just us and our numbers and saying, hey, look, 10 years later, people are still sharing it. But, back in the day, the reason I'm going over all this and giving you this is because, we would create something back then, an infographic. We didn't even know what it was called, but we would create it. And our intent was, we want it to make the front page of Dig, or, we wanted to get a bunch of links, and, we want it to go viral. Like, we really was like, create an infographic, go viral. Hopefully you'll get some links. You'll do this or that. And things have evolved, and the things that we're trying to do now with our visual content. So if someone comes to us and says, "Hey, we want a infographic," they're very resource intense. They take a lot of time to create. If you're going to research them right, create a good story, and they're costly. Again, if they're done right, if you're paying a company that's doing them right, and so. One of the things that we're really trying to help our clients understand is when we go through this whole process, think about everything else and every other way that this research and this graphic that you've created can be leveraged. So, for example, when we're putting it together in a manner where certain sections of it can be taken off and used as content on Instagram, for example. We're using certain sections that would be good, visual size for things used on Twitter. We're making versions of it that would be much more suitable for places like Pinterest, Facebook, for example. Things that can be used on banner ads, display ads, things that can be used in images, parts of it that can be used in blog content. Parts of it that can be answering questions in someone's frequently asked questions, or help section of a website or whatnot, or even can be used by a customer service team, things like that. And so again, you have this piece of content that back in the day we created to just quote unquote go viral, but now what we're trying to do moving forward is help people understand how to leverage so much more out of this. I mean, we've had pieces, we've created infographics that, when we're looking at it, we're like, hey, that would actually be broken down really well and fit well in a PowerPoint or in a pitch deck. And we've done that before, and we've uploaded it to places like SlideShare, and it's actually gotten more views on places like SlideShare and more links to it and more people referring to it than what we had originally intended it for. And so I know that was super long-winded, Dave, but kind of, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or what you're seeing on your end, but I kind of think that that's, one of the most important directions that we can go as far as helping people understand how to leverage every ounce of, get the most mileage, so to speak. And that's actually a title of one of my upcoming presentations, but getting the most out of your content.
Well, so I still see a lot of people creating just infographics and just like this. They're not 10 megs anymore. They've actually shrunk them down to like 5 to 7. But it's just this one ginormous thing. And then they slap it on the blog. And then they write.
Not even thinking about mobile users.
That's what I was getting to. And there's two, that's okay. 2 sentences of content, and then this big visual thing that just doesn't work on mobile, or blows up their theme, and doesn't even fit and moves everything all over the place. What changes in the thinking, or maybe not thinking, but in the process and the questions that someone like you asks, or someone that wants to create some visual content and wants to know how to build it in a way that they can easily break it up? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What questions should they be asking someone they're working with? So if they're working with a graphic designer, maybe they go to the local university and they find someone that's going to intern for them for the semester, and they're like, all right, we have this big campaign we want to do, we have this new product we're launching, whatever this thing is. What questions can they ask, and how can they frame it in that we want this big infographic, or we want this stuff here, but we also want to be able to break it up? Like, is there certain questions to ask, or a certain way to think about it, structure it?
No, that's great. I mean, what we do, we have a what we call a creative brief where, we ask all these questions. But basically what we're looking for, or what they would be, looking for, or the questions that they would be asking is obviously, can you do certain things? Like, if I give you this project, if I set you loose on it, are you going to be able to do things like make it responsive? Are you going to be able to have a different version of it for when people are viewing this on mobile, that it can be more digestible? Does any of this make sense to you? Really help them understand what we're doing is we have this great big piece of content, and it's fine for anyone that uses it on desktop and sees it, and we're going to use it in a blog post. And if people want to share it, we'll have it on Pinterest or whatever. But, let's say that we're using it on this blog post and we're sending a lot of people to it and they're looking at it on mobile. Well, we need mobile. We need it to recognize that people are viewing it from a mobile platform, and we need different snippets of it, or we need different versions of it to be displayed, or making it easier where they know that, hey, there is one other, here's a bunch of broken down pieces of this bigger, larger image. If you want to look at it, if you're able to on your tablet, maybe give them to a place where it's easy for them to zoom or whatnot, but maybe working with, whoever it is that you're working with them, helping them understand, look, here's what we have, and we want people to be able to enjoy this across all boards. And so, one of the things that I was thinking of, like with our social media graphic, because we did that one way, way back in the day. But again, same thing, same deal. People are going to have to scroll or look a little bit, it's going to be a little bit harder on mobile now. And so one of the things that I've just recently had this thought, how awesome it would be is if, we have it on a page where we can if it's recognized that they're on mobile, where something swipes up and it's almost more of a slide through slideshow presentation as to each network and how the cats are using it or whatever. And so, just making sure that someone can do something like that and help, just the obvious things, making sure that they know what, mobile versus desktop versus responsive and all this stuff, and making sure that they can do that in the first place, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also the, depending on which social channels you're in, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Is it going to be friendly to Pinterest, which isn't as big of a deal as those other ones because the sizes and stuff are all different. So,
well, yeah, and that's kind of where, when I first was talking about it, that I wanted them to, I want everyone to understand. So you make a great point, because let's say, hey, I'm going to share this infographic, I'm going to upload it as a picture to Twitter or whatever. Well, what's it going to get? Most likely the middle of it, and it's going to be a section of it that doesn't make any sense, and people are going to look at it and it's nothing that I want to click on. But if you get some of the most important data, some of the most important information, the visual part of it that actually would resonate with someone, and you upload that part of it as to the visual little rectangle square part that they'll see scrolling through on Twitter, then that actually might make them want to click on it and go forward. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So it's good that you brought that up, because that's again what I'm getting to, whether it be Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Let's make it as friendly as possible for those networks so people will actually want to consume it.
And I just had an idea for an offshoot of this. I'm not going to go down the whole, how do you, I'm just going to make a note in a second here after I ask this other question. Just trying to keep me on topic and thus you on topic of trends and stuff in 2018. So the quote unquote infographic that you've been doing for 10 years now, before it was an infographic, we've kind of moved beyond that. So going with, on Facebook and stuff, organic's getting very tough as of recently, thanks to Mr. Zuck, and just the news. Not that you could get much reach before without ads, but I see and I follow one person that used to be a really popular Vine user, and we've kind of talked about how different platforms come and go. And now he actually creates tons of content for like NASCAR and ATT for their Instagram and for their Snapchat channels, creating like this crazy video stuff. So looking at just visual content in 2018, and not just for social channels, but also for the website, what are you seeing beyond the infographic? I know you've talked about this before in some of our sessions, but for those that haven't been there, what do you see kind of things going to and maturing to?
Well, it's interesting too, because one of the things and again, it's 2018, and it's kind of funny because a lot of the stuff that you're hearing or recommending or whatever is like stuff that some of us have been saying you should do forever. But I've been seeing a lot of people finally start saying stuff like, hey, this year I'm doing more video, or I'm going to take advantage of, the Facebook Live. I'm going to take advantage of, the Instagram stories, or whatever it might be, whatever platform, whatever version of live streaming or video or YouTube or whatever. And so I would say that that's one of the things that I think we're going to see a lot more of. And we've talked about this a lot, but as far as consuming content, my kids hardly consume any kind of video that's not YouTube related. And so I don't see that that's going to be going away. But as far as social channels, just those, people leveraging a lot more and telling stories and getting their brand and their message out and letting people know who the real they are, or who the real brand is, or what the brand's about through, those kind of, like what you had already mentioned with, some of those places that are hiring those other guys to create that video content. But, stuff like that, obviously, more high level, we have, VR stuff still coming into play. We have, and actually you should probably touch on that a little bit. I think that there's some breweries doing some cool stuff with VR. But things like that and 360 video, I think you're going to be seeing lots more of that. And then just any kind of way that people are able to leverage any kind of visuals and taking advantage of visuals for answering the questions that people are asking and really helping get that brand message across, if that makes sense.
Yep. Well, and with Google now, they're doing in-store walkthroughs. So if you have a brick and mortar, you can show, you can let Google in, or you can hire, I think, and I know I know a couple people, and I think some people that have these little 360 cameras, And I know someone that goes around to breweries and does 360s. And when I went in to go and look up the address recently for one, I was picking up the wife from the airport, and the little guy and I was looking for someone that was kid-friendly, that had some decent food options for us. And I actually found one I hadn't been to. We went there, and as I'm looking at the photo, I'm like, photo credit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's the one I just saw him post on Facebook a couple weeks ago. And what he does is you can hire him to go in, and he'll do 360 videos of your business and then you post it to your Google, so that if someone wants to come in and it's not just a street view and it's not just, whatever, but for your My Google, and you can even use it for anything else. I saw someone have it as their cover photo. They used kind of a 360 kind of video or 360 stitched image for their Facebook kind of cover.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of uses for it, but VR, there's a brewery. I talked about it in the past that actually went, and all of the beer that they make, it's Deschutes Brewery, and based up in Bend, Oregon. And what they did is all of their beers are named after the mountains and the ponds and the lakes and stuff in their area. And what they did at one point is they walked through and took video of all these spots. And then you can, with VR glasses, you can go in and you can see Mirror Pond Lake and some of the other places where that beer that you really like is named after.
That's so cool. That's a fantastic use, and that's going to get a lot of engagement and stuff on social media as well. Yeah,
and if you're a restaurant or you're some other business, you can, 360 videos. You want some content to share on your Facebook or your, Google My Business page. There's a couple other people that really use video really well to tell the story of their business. I see some done really poorly.
Yeah.
But then I just came across, because I'm traveling soon to St. Louis. There's a brewery down there that like once a month does a little video, and they're anywhere from like 2 minutes to 8 minutes long. And it just talks about this beer, or it talks about some project going on, and it's their little vlog, and they literally just do it once a month.
Yeah. So as we were talking about this, it got me thinking of one other thing that I've started to see a lot more of, and I think that we'll continue to see a lot more of, is as people get more familiar with drones and we have less talk about people being angry about them and shooting them down and stuff, there's going to be a lot more drone footage. I know that, I've been contacted by so many realtors. A lot of people know that I do photography, know that I have a decent drone, and so many people have tried to hire me. Which, note to self, if I ever, if the internet ever goes away, I might actually have a career in, photography or something because of these people. But, they want aerial footage of the acreage or the house or whatever. And so, and that, again, that's just one of many. We've been hired. I've also noticed even this year, we've booked more gigs from cities. We're based in Utah. And more cities have hired us to do just different commercials that involve drone footage and stuff like that, because we have a Phantom at work. And so I think we're going to continue to see stuff like that as well. What about you?
Yeah, there's any type of, the VR and the drones and any type video or opportunity, the 360, I think is a very simple way. And I'm trying to remember how much it costs, but like it was $99 or something. And I know depending on what city you're in, you can probably find a photographer that will just, is a local and will come in and do a photo shoot for you. We've kind of talked about it in the past, or, even look at the universities near you and see if they have students that are looking for a portfolio. If you're a restaurant, try to broker a deal and say, hey, we'll give you some gift cards.
Yeah.
We'll give you some gift cards for some food, or we'll give you some gift cards for some merch.
Well, something, when you're talking about that, it reminded me of one of the businesses that I have. We've talked before, I own a couple mattress companies. One of them is VolaBox.com. And, when we did our initial photo shoots of all the products and things like that we used on the webpage, they gave us literally thousands of photos. Okay. Not all of them we're ever going to use on the website, but a lot of them are great visual, great visuals of the product and people interacting with them and just in different settings and stuff like that. And so, if you ever, again, maybe think back to when you've had stuff like that done, and is there any, because again, it's just something that popped into my head. I'm like, I have like literally thousands of images that I haven't even thought about using for social content or whatnot. And so, someone else that's listening to us might be in that same situation.
I mean, yeah, anytime you do a blog post or any kind of Facebook post, why would you want to use or need to use any stock photography? We've talked about this before. You have tons of content just sitting right there. So, yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully, as far as hopefully people got something out of this. I guess my last and final tip before I turn it over to you for your final one would just be, again, thinking about the overall picture and getting more people involved. And one of the things that I'm going to really be pushing in 2018 is helping people understand the concept of documenting content versus just creating content. And again, I know we've talked heavily about visual today, but just, how can you visually document and create content and getting everybody involved, everybody on your team, or having everybody buy in and helping you understand that, what the visual is going to do. It's going to help people understand the product or you better. It's going to help people understand the brand, the vision, everything that you're trying to do. And those would just be my final thoughts. Dave?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Red Bull kind of $40 million or, some Super Bowl commercial. I've seen people do just really basic live streams. I talked about it before when I was at a restaurant and literally the manager was just walking around and had walked around before and found that people had the special that night or had different dishes and was just kind of walking around and talking and saying, someone got the steak. Someone got some seafood. This is our pasta dish. We're having specials tonight on blah, 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 blah. Like literally that was it. And they were using it for Instagram and for wherever. It can be really simple, whatever you're doing.
To me, that simple stuff is the best, though. Like when I'm looking at trying to find a place that I want to eat in an area that I've never been before, I honestly scroll through so many different pictures of the food because I want to see what it looks like. I want to see, does it look good? First of all, what size are the portions?
Yep.
Are my kids going to like it? And so that's awesome. That's great. Good tips. And so everybody, for Dave Rohr, I'm Matt Siltala. Dave Rohr with Northside Metrics. I'm with Avalaunch Media, and we will hit you on another one of these Business of Digital podcasts. Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Bye.